making me use my brain. I have actually inhaled my cup of coffee. He asked me when did I think the internet was here to stay. And I told my initial response was the day I came to work for him at IBM, which would have been April of '91, because it seems to me I always remember, and I don't just mean internal IBM networks, but it seems like, well, my memory could be faulty, but it seemed, you know, like the first 2 or 3 years could be blending into each other. But it seems like I always had access to the internet.
Yeah. And
certainly I was one of the first people shopping on Amazon, one of the first people to get an eBay account. Yeah. You know, I've been on eBay. Will tell me I've been on eBay since forever. Oh, yeah. But then we started thinking a little bit harder, and Dad, well, I had a Commodore 64 the year Commodore 64s came out, and just as soon as Dad and I could hook up and I coded on it, Hello World, little simple programs. I had a cassette deck that I used to load programs, and then that was too slow, so as soon as Dad could upgrade me to a floppy disk, he did that, and that was within the first year. That came out pretty quick, if I remember correctly. I wanted to know why he didn't get me a gaming system. I wanted an Atari. So I ended up with an Atari. Because, you know, if you wanted your kid to learn to code or learn smart things, you got him a Commodore 64. And if you wanted to be the latest and greatest gamer and not have to go to the video arcade, you got an Atari system. So I actually ended up with both. But we had a modem hooked up to the computer just as soon as there were modems. We had a modem.
Right.
And then in college, I was taking C programming up at UNCC, and we had to load our programs on I think it was a Borland. Borland made the C programming code, yeah. But what was it? Tell me, because I've told you before.
Pascal, actually.
No, well, I did Pascal and C. Borland made home programming, but I had to Burroughs welcome. No, it wasn't an IBM mainframe at UNCC. I've told you before what it was, but I can't remember. Well, anyway, I would take my disk up to school with me, or I would send it from home. They would load my program on the mainframe and run it. The professor wanted it loaded up to the mainframe. That was where he put the test programs and stuff. So I had to go to I would write the code at home, but I had to go to the lab to load it.
Sure.
But I didn't hang around the lab at school because I was a commuter student, and I was also interning at IBM. I was spending 10 plus hours a day in Charlotte. I got the heck out of there just a second I could come back home. So I'm going to say in the 80s. As soon as I was dialing up on the modem and interacting with other people, not in my home, so I'm going to say whatever year Dad got me my first modem.
Yep.
Yeah, but Dad was the one that made sure I had the PC. Whatever it was, that big honkin' CRT, so that I could code at home and didn't have to stay in the lab at school.
Right.
And Dad, he built his own stuff or had somebody build them for him. He didn't go out and buy. It wasn't an Apple or what. Yeah. It wasn't a IBM or an Apple machine. It was a machine built of part. He had a friend that did that, so they would source this, that, and the other. But I guess it ran Windows. I don't remember those details.
Right. What happened was somebody posted an article from The Guardian that basically said in 2000, the article was published, that the internet's just a fad and it'll pass soon. And I think that was after the .com bubble a little bit. Some of that, I didn't read it was a picture of the newspaper.
Sure.
But it made me start remembering when I got on something that I actually knew was the internet. And I do remember using Gopher and some other web crawler thing before there were all that was integrated into the browser. But it still was. I was in Raleigh. I used dial-up modems, bulletin boards before I left Florida. So that would have been 88. 86, 87. I got my first IBM PC in 84, and I got an AT in 86, and then I had a modem on the AT because when I moved up here, I very quickly got dial-up internet access to IBM, and but that was I honestly believe that was strictly to do. We didn't. There was no browser or anything. I mean, I was just logging on to retain and on the mainframes. I mean, that's
Yeah, they
what
call it home terminal program,
Yeah.
or at least that I remember. They ever call it anything before
No,
that?
that was home terminal, and it actually had a built-in emulator. Everything when you logged in, it handled all the. I didn't know TCP/IP because we were all SNOL back then. Anyways, the point is, it was an interesting thing. That the internet is sort of kind of creeped up on me because I basically say 1994, I absolutely knew about this thing called the World Wide Web and
Yeah.
the browser and all this stuff because I did my first web programming sometime in 95 because we shipped the code in 96. So I was part of I wasn't the very earliest person on the team, but I was pretty early on with the team. The guys had did a prototype web server that ran on a mainframe. It was very, very early, and I definitely participated in that project because I then took that web server that they did and hooked it up to Infoman, my product. So that's where I was involved. I didn't do the server, but the CGI, Common Gateway Interface. I did a CGI type interface to our product.
Yeah, Don and I had this conversation one day where I enlightened him about a couple of things our API could do
Yeah.
and how to do that. And then he had all of the smarts. It's like, oh, yeah. Oh, really? Okay, well, let's just go make it do this or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, so, yeah,
Yeah,
that
well,
was
anyway,
pretty cool.
so that was like
You
I
and
said,
you and Glenn.
yeah, Glenn, and then
Yep.
we actually shipped that interface, that CGI, that method to access Infoman. We call that the connector,
Yeah.
web connector.
Yeah.
We shipped our web connector in 96.
Yeah, so you could front end the main. People that didn't want to learn the mainframe could potentially use our product from the web browser.
That's right.
That was what it was for.
Yeah.
That's what it came to be. That was what it was
So
for.
we were actually early on ahead of the curve. We sort of lost our initial my product. If we would have, but the problem is that our product, there was no one size fits all. It was everybody customized it. So
Well, that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah,
But
let's not
basically, upper management wanted to kill our product. I think they were determined they were going to buy a server help desk, and it was going to be the best thing since
they
sliced bread. And
they
make
didn't want to build more on the mainframe,
Yeah.
which is where this thing all ran.
Yeah.
They wanted to leverage workstations and stuff like that. That's what people apparently wanted.
yeah.
But
They thought they were sold that they should want that.
30 years and mainframes are still around.
Yeah, exactly. And we still hear about a few people like the government using our product. So
Right, yes.
where it's running, it's still running without anybody doing a whole lot to it except for assigning user IDs and helping people with their user profile.
That's a lot of the advantages.
I fixed you. See, you can't reach it. I fixed you. That's why they're up so high. Because little girl wanted to be bad. Well, that was in it. Thank you for stimulating my brain this morning. I remember the day, generally speaking, it was frowned upon to be doing personal business while you were at work, even though you had a computer in front of you that could get on the internet. But I remember Cyber Monday, it was kind of an accepted thing that people were going to be in their office on their computer buying some stuff.
Well, and I just sometime before the Y2K, because when I was traveling in service, I had the watch. I bought on the internet a watch. I paid back in those days $600. It was a lot of money, and I didn't know at the time when I pushed submit. I didn't know that I was actually doing business with a company in Germany. And so I actually made an international purchase before the year 2000 using the internet with a credit card. So I think that's saying a little bit. Now it's no big deal, but back then that had I known that I was doing business with a company in Germany because I really liked this watch, I wouldn't have probably wouldn't have went through it. I would say, I think that's just too much. But I didn't, you know, I was taken in by the market. Yeah, I got the watch, no problem. Still have it. It still works. I mean, you know, it just was one of those things. You know, with the internet, you don't know where things are sometimes. You know, you have no idea unless you actually go look.
So, what was the first home automation thing you did in this house? And what year?
Oh, that was the day I moved in.
Okay. And what was it?
I put a timer on the hot water heater.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was what component you repurposed to make the timer for the hot water heater?
I put a relay. I disconnected the upper and lower heat strips. I put a relay on so that I could turn, well, first put a relay on, just turn off and on the water heater, and then I disconnected the lower heat strip. So it only ran the upper heat strip because there's no use in heating the whole tank of water with just me.
What year did you hook up the old thermostat so you could tell the temperature of the water in the tank?
Oh, that would have been not long after that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also automated the garage, the doors down here. I used to park my car underneath the house, and I had windshield wiper motors hooked up, and they would open and close those barn doors for me.
I never saw that automation. That was gone before I showed up. Well, that's also because the little VW Bug was gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, before Don had the garage has only been there since
2005.
Yeah, was when it was built, but it was a while before you put doors on it and finished the inside and did all of that other stuff. Yeah. We've told that story before. That kind of, I kicked that project off with, there's free melamine wood on the side of the road. You need to go get that. And Don wanted to lose weight, so between the two, stay busy on a project, so he wasn't in the house snacking, and that's how the whole garage got finished. But yeah, well, I remember the first time over at some point where you had the hot water heater. Me showing up got that some of that automation off of the hot water heater, but
I used that forever. That's right.
Yeah, that was still up there.
I'd run my water heater 15 minutes a day if it needed to or not.
Right. And when did you have the EV pickup truck?
Got that in July of 2008.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you were a little ahead of the curve there.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody's here. Good morning, Morris. Hi. I did go put Band-Aid on my finger eventually yesterday. And some honey. Probably take the Band-Aid off or put a new one on after we get back from our walk. Yeah, Tux and Stripe both yesterday were over here scraping near my peony. So if we're gonna use the bathroom over here, we need to go up into the woods just a little farther, Mr. Man. Hi. Hey, bud. Yeah. I'd like to see it bloom this year. That would be nice. And here's Tuxalux. Hey, bud. I had to pick him up and set him up here because he just gets confused about where he's supposed to go. I guess he wants to pick where he eats. Hey, buddy. Hi. Good morning. How are you? You're so pretty. It's pretty eyes. Well, I saw Gypsy on the bridge in the middle of the day yesterday, but I never saw him come up on the porch, which is kind of a bummer because there was plenty of food out here, and for the majority of that time, Panther was asleep. And the boys were in the backyard asleep. I did see Spot come up last night, but he was after the raccoon. So, same thing for him. If he'd just come a little earlier, it'd be so much easier to come up, get fresh food, and navigate the porch. But there was still a lot of dry chow. So I saw him eating out of the dry chow bowl. So I think, you know, obviously he got some food last night and he was here. It's just that I put out nice wet food for him, and then I don't think there was any wet food left when he came up. And I can't go out and add more because they just run off and never come back for that day. Frustrating. Hey, Gray. Good morning to you too. Johnny's gonna be home this weekend for spring break, and it'll be a little longer trip. Yeah. We're walking. It's not bad out here today, just could be improved if it was sunny, I suppose. It's already in the 50s. Yesterday I picked up not less than 10 screws on the ground in front of the recycle bin. Scary. Well, Marty ran in the house, but Tux and Stripe are enjoying themselves. We're supposed to have a little rain this afternoon, but it's not going to amount to much, I don't think. They'll move if it starts to rain. I don't see any kitties on the bridge yet. Well, I'm on time. I should have a few minutes to spare. I guess I should have concluded the internet discussion with if you're old enough to remember your first days on the internet and you want to share where that was or what you were doing or what you remember doing, leave us a comment. I just think it would be cool to continue a little chit chat about that today. And yes, I drifted over the line a little bit there, but it wasn't Ruby, it was me. I just had my second cup of coffee for the day. We got in close to 45 minutes of walking, but Don was on his conference call most of the time, and it was a pretty intense, I think was the word he used, call today. So you know, we weren't chit-chatting much while we were out there. Quite a bit of trash today, the usual. So I am headed to do chiropractor, Guardian Angel, Apex, Whole Foods, the usual Tuesday rotation. I kind of twisted my back a little bit Saturday when I was putting up and putting out the decorations. So I'll be glad to get the pulse on my back today. I twisted my knee a little bit coming off the steps, not when I was the attic steps, not when I was doing the decoration stuff, but when I went to just grab some more paper towels. The very last step, I put my knee down and it kind of moved sideways on me a little bit. So I probably would tell her to pulse my knee if my back wasn't bothering me, but yeah, the knee's not super bad. I could tell her to do both, but then she has to split the pulsing and it's not quite as effective. Well, Ruby is driving now, and she just did two great things. Number one, there was traffic cones on the side of the road, and she crossed the yellow line with no one coming the other way by about a foot to give the cones proper clearance. So never say never about her moving over a double yellow line if it's clear. It's exactly what I would have done in that situation. So I felt she did really good. And then I hit the 35 zone, and she said maintaining speed for traffic flow or something like that. So she didn't slow all the way down super fast to 35. She kept up with the car in front of her pretty good, which again is more human-like. I saw somebody say on Twitter, I think it was this week, that it was amazing how great V11 was doing now that V12 was out, even though we don't have V12 yet. And I would say that was sort of true there. And I just took over so I could move more out of the way. She would have been over here okay, but not probably as close to the car in front or gotten as left. This is a weird double left turn lane that's still not big enough for all the cars turning left. There's a Mach-E over there, and there's a Volvo Recharge over here. For some reason I wasn't on the calendar, so they're gonna see me at noon, so I've got an hour, so I'm just gonna go over to Guardian Angel first. We don't know what happened. There's a red Y. I think that, and I'm guessing, that I canceled an appointment a few weeks ago when we went to pick up Johnny or take Johnny back or something. And then I I still got the notification on Sunday, the text message that I had the appointment. And I'm like, well, they confirmed that they knew that I'm not coming, so I'm not going to worry about it. And if I had to guess, what happened is they didn't remove me from that day, but they removed me from today. Accident. It happens. Anyway, they can still see me, which is good because my back's bothering me. And switching these two things around isn't a big deal. So, anyway, I'll make it work. There's a 3. I'm pretty sure I saw a Y on the other side over there. And here's a bolt. Parking lot's pretty empty today. This is what it looks like normal when there aren't a lot of Hertz cars. Of course, I'm an hour earlier than normal, but still. I have the bin that I've passed up on a few weeks now, but no new bin. I got in a lot more of these houses, but they're more colonial than Victorian, and so, yeah, no. Must be an employee at the tire shop that drives a Tesla. I'm trying to figure it out. I've seen, well, two white and a red. That doesn't mean a whole lot. They have a Prius for their courtesy car, their advertisement car. I don't know. So I got one aquarium fish tank piece with an Egyptian mummy on it for Michelle. It was $5. I'll pop a picture of it up. I sent her a picture. And that's all I bought today. The lady said they were getting in some, Fuquay was going to send over some stuff. They were a little light. And I'm going to say that I agree that the selection was a little light today. They had some St. Patrick's Day metallic shimmery wreaths. Tesla on the left, blue. When I came by before, there were like 3 parked here on the street. Anyway, they had just a very scattered amount of St. Patrick's Day and no Easter. There's a white Y. And I think there was another white 3 over here, but it's left now. So yeah, I look forward to going to Fuquay Thursday with Michelle, hopefully. Because it was a little slow. And there were 1 or 2 new pieces of costume jewelry, but nothing Michelle and I were interested in. No hand towels. I couldn't even find an Easter or something hand towel. I gotta get Dawn, or I've got to do it, to fix the little button cell that lets me snap a picture with my dash cam, because I just made the corner up there and there were 3 Teslas and a Mach-E and like 10 cars, 4 of them were electric. I was like, well, there's a Tesla. Oh, there's another Tesla. Oh, there's a Tesla. Wait a minute, there's a Mach-E. And look at the pretty tree. Yeah, all the plums and early pink fruit trees are blooming right now. We're not up to Yoshino cherries yet. Honestly, they shouldn't bloom until April, the first week in April, but I suspect they're going to be early this year. But yeah, the plum trees are always particularly early. They're pretty, super pretty. Supposed to only be nicer tomorrow, so all of our trees will be happily confused until we get that late spring frost. Level set them a little bit. Alright, I'm good to go until next week. Let's head on over to Whole Foods and see what's happening over there. See what the cupcake designs look like this week. Well, it's raining, but not bad. I don't think it's going to get too heavy. Obviously, when I come out of the store with my groceries, I care. I'd like for it not to be raining much at those 10 minutes it takes me to load up. Come up the hill in the cart, you know. Yeah, she was falling back asleep. After a busy day of shopping, it was nice to come in here and sit down with her for a few minutes. Make sure she's got her daily loving. Good girl. The olive green parts I needed for over there came today, and while the chuck roast that I put in the Instant Pot is cooking, I'm gonna work on my project here for a little bit. I did add a little bit of brown on top last night after I did the last, it was in the time lapse, but not in the conclusion where I told you guys what I did yesterday. In other words, I piddled for a few minutes while something was cooking in the kitchen, which is a common thing. I like working in the kitchen because it gives me the patience to be out here while things are simmering, sauteing, cooking, or whatever. I'm close by, but I've got something to do, so I like it. So I've added the sign for the noodle shop, although they show the gold chopsticks coming out a little farther, and these are 4Ls. Maybe if they made a 5L or a 6L in the gold, I don't know. I have finished up the top part of the first floor of the noodle shop, and I'm working on leveling up the Chinese restaurant part. There's a dark green awning that goes on all the sides except for the flat wall, because this is a corner, and this is the wall that butts up to the house beside it. So it's actually a right corner, although when I display it in the cabinet, I'm going to display it like this. It can also be on this side too. But anyway, so way cool. Got more done than I thought. Not as much as I ever want. And I'm stopping for dinner. I've got pearl onions I need to get the skins off of that are going in the with the chuck roast. Okay, this video from Feely is hilarious, and you've just got to watch it. And it's definitely soda and sneakers. Just saying.
Pecan.
Well, on pecan or pecan, I go back and forth depending on who I'm around. I'm thinking Don says one or two things the way I say it now, and I certainly say a few things the way Don says them now. Yeah.
I just say hungry.
I'm not finishing up dinner until I finish watching the video. Chuck roast with the broth, pearl onions, and some of the little tiny potatoes on top, which I cook separate so they're crunchy.